My husband had children behind my back, so I stepped aside and left, but then he wasn't happy about it. To let my husband focus on his official duties, I chose to stay in the old house in the countryside, taking care of his seriously ill mother. That stay lasted 10 years. Xiao Chen came home once a year to visit his family, but he never touched me. He said he wouldn't be around, and if I were to become pregnant with no one to take care of me, he would feel heartbroken every time we parted. He would curse himself for being useless and swear to the heavens that once he made a name for himself, he would bring me to the capital. In the winter of the 11th year, heavy snow blocked the roads, and Xiao Chen sent a letter saying he would be a few days late returning. I was just about to share this news with my mother-in-law when I unintentionally overheard a conversation between her and my sister-in-law. "Mother, you've been pretending to be sick for over 10 years now. How much longer are you going to keep this up?" My mother-in-law sighed and said, "What else can we do? Chenna only has eyes for his sworn sister. They went behind the family's back and got married, and now they even have children. If we don't hold Yanga back and let her cause a scene in the capital, will Chenna be able to keep his position as minister? Enough. Let's continue keeping it from her." Chenna said that once he's more firmly established, he will definitely make it up to Yanga. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. It turned out that Xiao Chen was not incompetent. On the contrary, he had already become the Minister of Revenue. He was not unwilling to touch me, but rather, he had found his own beloved to share his bed. Disheartened, I went to the military camp and found the soldier who had admired me for a long time. "Are you still willing to marry me now?" The soldier nodded with unexpected joy. With trembling hands, he vowed, "Miss Yang, I promise to treat you well. But please give me 1 month, I must go to battle tonight. This time, I will surely achieve great merit and marry you with honor and glory." I pressed down his hand and said, "I have never sought glory, only stability. Protect yourself well and return safely, that is all I ask." After seeing the soldier off to battle, I returned home. The house, which should have been quiet, was now lit with a lamp. I thought it was my mother-in-law waiting for me, so as I closed the courtyard gate, I scolded, "Mother, it's so late, you should have rested earlier." Before I could finish speaking, the door was pulled open, and a tall figure stood with his back to the candlelight. A familiar voice, mingled with the wind and snow, drifted into my ears. "Yanga, I'm back." It had been a year since we last met, and Xiao Chen had grown even more composed. Perhaps it was due to his high-ranking position, but there was an air of authority in his tone that commanded respect even without anger. He spread his arms wide, waiting for me to rush into his embrace as I always had before, to pour out my longing for him, but I didn't. I set down the basket and said calmly, "Husband, you haven't eaten yet, have you? I'll go make you a few side dishes." Xiao Chen instinctively furrowed his brows, awkwardly withdrew his arms, and said with feigned nonchalance, "What's wrong? It's been a year since we last saw each other, and you don't miss me, or are you still angry with me?" Before learning the truth, I truly missed him and was somewhat annoyed with him. After all, no woman wants to be separated from her husband for so long and so far away, but after understanding everything, I no longer have any expectations and have come to terms with it. Rather than arguing and making a scene, it's better to part on good terms and leave quietly. I didn't answer, but instead changed the subject. "Husband, why don't you go keep mother company for a while? I'll call you when the meal is ready." I didn't say anything more to him and turned to go to the kitchen. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen actually followed me. He pulled me into his arms and asked tentatively, "Yanga, what's really going on with you? Have you heard some unfounded rumors?" I calmly pushed him away and smiled serenely, saying, "In this remote and impoverished place, we rarely see outsiders throughout the year. What could I possibly have heard? Husband, do not overthink it." Xiao Chen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He simply thought I was throwing a petty tantrum and once again forcefully pulled me into his embrace. "Yanga, I've come back this time to take you all to the capital. However, I have a difficulty that I need to discuss with you in advance." My heart tightened, and I immediately understood what he was about to say. After more than 10 years, he finally couldn't hold on any longer. Xiao Chen brought me back to the house. To my surprise, not only was my mother-in-law there, but also a woman adorned in gold and silver, along with 2 children who bore a striking resemblance to Xiao Chen. My mother-in-law kept her head down guiltily, not even daring to look at me. Instead, it was the woman who stepped forward confidently and extended her hand to me. You must be Jiang Luoyang, right? I'm Zhu Yunying, Xiao Chen's sworn sister and also his wife. Seeing that I didn't respond, she pushed the child forward again. These are my and Xiao Lang's son and daughter. Quick, call Aunt Jiang. Xiao Chen, noticing my cold expression, quickly stopped Zhu Yunying and pulled me aside guiltily, saying, Yang, let me explain. That year, when I went to the capital for the imperial exams, I encountered bandits who robbed me. If it weren't for Yingying's rescue, I probably wouldn't be alive today. I originally just wanted to take her as my sworn sister. But later I found out she was also an orphan with nowhere to go, so I thought of giving her a home. Ultimately, it's also to repay a kindness. If you feel upset, you can hit or scold me, just as long as you two can get along well when we reach the capital. Xiao Chen grabbed my hand and tried to make me hit his face. I pulled my hand back and smiled without anger or annoyance, saying, going to the capital is a good thing. There's nothing to be upset about. Mother's health hasn't improved all these years. Perhaps going to the capital will help her recover. Xiao Chen was overjoyed and deeply moved. Really, Yang, does this mean you don't blame me anymore? My understanding made Xiao Chen heave a long sigh of relief. He urged, Yang, then quickly pack your things. We'll set off the day after tomorrow so we can still make it back to the capital for New Year's Eve. I nodded and said, Mother doesn't have many things, so packing won't take long. I'll also wrap up the medicine we need for the journey. You can leave early the day after tomorrow. Xiao Chen's back stiffened, and he quickly understood what I meant. He frowned and asked, Yang, what do you mean by that? Aren't you coming with us? I met his gaze, my voice calm. Husband, we probably won't be coming back after this trip. I need to settle the farmland and the house, otherwise, we'd still have to pay taxes to the government for leaving them vacant, which isn't cost-effective. Husband, you take everyone back to the capital for the festival first. Once I've settled things here, I'll join you all in the spring for our reunion. Xiao Chen's expression softened slightly. He knew how important this land and house were to me. When I first married into the family, the Xiao family had nothing, and we lived in a rented, drafty shack. It was I who worked desperately hard, supporting his studies for the imperial exams while saving up to buy this house and 2 plots of land. Only then did the family no longer worry about making a living, and Xiao Chen had a place to study in peace. Perhaps recalling the past, a trace of heartache appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. Yang, I am now the Minister of Revenue and don't lack money. At worst, we can just give the fields and properties to the poor, so you don't have to trouble yourself. I shook my head with a smile. After all, I earned it with my own hands and feet. I can't bear to part with it. Don't worry, my husband. I'll come find you as soon as I've handled this matter. I won't delay. For a moment, Xiao Chen felt a pang of reluctance and hesitation. Zhu Yunying noticed his emotions clearly and tugged at his sleeve in displeasure, reminding him, Husband, don't be soft-hearted, the censorate is watching you. If we leave her here and the censorate investigates, what if she slips up? Do you still want to keep your official position? I'm not foolish. I immediately understood what Zhu Yunying meant. It turns out that Xiao Chen wasn't acting out of a guilty conscience, as I had thought. Instead, someone had discovered that he once had a wife who shared his hardships. If this matter were to be verified, the censorate would surely file a formal impeachment against him. The current emperor is a devoted person who despises those who abandon their wives and children the most. If Xiao Chen wants to keep his official position secure, the most important thing is to keep me happy and prevent me from speaking carelessly. Thinking about these things, it would be untrue to say it doesn't sadden me. I have been married to Xiao Chen for 13 years. And it is no exaggeration to say I have given him my whole heart. Xiao Chen is a scholar, unable to carry heavy loads or shoulder burdens. My mother-in-law is old and cannot be of much help either. His older brother is even more of a good-for-nothing who idles away his life. I am the only one supporting the entire family, but I never complained once. Not only did I take care of my mother-in-law, but I also saved money to help his brother marry a wife, allowing us to live a stable life. I thought that by doing this, I could earn Xiao Chen's unwavering loyalty for life. But in the end, I overestimated myself. I finally understood what it means that scholars have always been fickle since ancient times. I forced back the bitterness in my eyes, refusing to let the tears fall. Then she composed herself and said firmly, So that's what you were worried about, my husband. I can write a guarantee letter, no matter who asks. I will insist that I am the adopted daughter of the Xiao family. Your sister, how about that? Xiao Chen, his mother, and Zhu Yuning all looked astonished. After a long pause, Xiao Chen said with a mix of doubt and hope, Yang, are you really willing to humble yourself like this for me? I smiled and nodded. For my husband, I can do anything. But just in case, you need to destroy something immediately. Xiao Chen asked cautiously. What is it? I calmly replied, the marriage certificate. Our marriage certificate. In our remote and impoverished village, we don't have so many formalities for marriage. Writing a marriage certificate and drinking the nuptial wine is considered a done deal. There's no need to register it with the government at all, so as long as the marriage certificate is destroyed, I will no longer be Xiao Chen's wife. I just need to wait for that soldier to return, and then I can get married. I thought this was something Xiao Chen had been longing for. But for some reason, he hesitated. Yang, you once said that our marriage certificate was your most precious possession. All these years, you've given so much for me. If even the one thing you truly cherish were destroyed, how heartbreaking that would be. Perhaps, we should keep the marriage certificate for now. So, he had seen all my efforts, and he still remembered them. Yet even so, for 10 years he has unwaveringly left me here, contentedly building a family with someone else. Since he treats my sincere feelings as worthless, why should I still cling to that marriage certificate? But I know, given his cautious nature, he won't easily let me marry someone else, so I had no choice but to fabricate a reason. Husband, you know, I value that marriage certificate even more than you do. For the sake of your future, I had to make the painful decision to let go. Once we reach the capital, you can marry me and make it up to me, isn't that right? My mother-in-law also nodded in agreement. Yang is right. In your current position, you must be most careful not to leave any evidence. Destroy it. Since Yang is so considerate of you, you should make it up to her properly in the future. Although Xiao Chen still had concerns, he knew I was right. He took out the marriage certificate and, before lighting it, gave one last reminder. Yang, I'm sorry for keeping this from you, but you have to believe me. I will definitely treat you well in the future. Wait for me. I will prepare the best betrothal gifts and marry you again properly. Xiao Chen's demeanor was so sincere it felt utterly convincing, but I don't want to believe it anymore. I'll just take it as my own illusion. I personally lit 2 marriage certificates on fire, the flames turning this absurd marriage into ashes. It also burned away the obsession I've held for over 10 years. I suddenly feel a bit of anticipation for how freely I can live now that I'm liberated. After Xiao Chen accompanied Zhu Yuning and the children back to the house to rest, my mother-in-law stopped me. She dropped her disguise and actually knelt down before me. Yang, it's my fault as your mother. I've kept this from you for so long. You must hate me deeply, don't you? My mother-in-law's hair was already completely white, and seeing her tears streaming down her aged face, I truly couldn't bear it. I helped her up and said calmly, Mother, I know you love your son too much, and Yang doesn't blame you. Although your serious illness was feigned, you do indeed suffer from constant minor ailments and pains. When we go to the capital, you must listen carefully to the doctor's advice. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law cried even more heart-wrenchingly. My dear Yang, why are you so kind? Without you, who else would treat me so well? Don't worry, no matter how Chenna treats you in the future, I will always regard you as my own daughter and never let anyone bully you. I understood my mother-in-law's helplessness, so I never blamed her. But I don't intend to trust her anymore. After all, she is a mother. No matter how sweet her words may sound, her heart will always be biased. If one day she had to choose between Xiao Chen and me, I believe she would still choose Xiao Chen without hesitation. I said calmly, Mother, it's all right. Whoever Xiao Chen marries will become your half-daughter. You don't have to feel indebted to me. Just after stepping out of my mother-in-law's room, Zhu Yuning stopped me in the courtyard. Lady Jiang, you don't need to take young Master Xiao's words seriously. I actually never saved him. I thought the double betrayal from my mother-in-law, whom I regarded as my own mother, and my husband, whom I had loved for many years, was the greatest blow. Little did I know, they were still hiding things from me. Zhu Yuning was never Xiao Chen's savior. On the contrary, it was Xiao Chen who fell in love with her at first sight, approached her under the guise of forming a sworn sibling bond, ruined her original marriage arrangement, and married her into the family. Calling her his lifesaver was merely Xiao Chen's expedient measure. He knew that I was kind-hearted and always repaid favors. So he coordinated with my mother-in-law in advance and came up with this excuse to force me to compromise and accept my fate. Zhu Yuning, seeing me lost in thought her provocation had taken effect and said smugly, "So all his talk about marrying you in a grand ceremony was just lies. Once you go to the capital, you'll only be a concubine. Oh, by the way, there's also my mother-in-law, who says she treats you like her own daughter. Do you believe that? Do you think you can win against her own son and grandson?" I suppressed the moisture in my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm as I asked, "Are you telling me all this because you want me to know my place and leave?" "Right." Zhu Yuning shook her head. "Xiao Lang is indeed a man of deep affection. You have given so much to the Xiao family. If I were to truly let you leave, he would surely blame me and regret it for the rest of his life. I can't bear to do it. I'm saying all this just to make you recognize your place. When you arrive in the capital, be content with your role as a concubine. Do not aspire to a higher status, and do not even think about having children. Xiao Lang has promised me that he will only have children with me in this lifetime, which is why he has never touched you. If you dare to have any improper thoughts by then, don't blame me for being impolite, but if you behave properly, I will never shortchange you on food, clothing, or daily necessities." I had no mind to continue with her, so I agreed. On the day of departure, I saw their family off to the village entrance. I took off the only valuable jade hairpin from my head and placed it in Zhu Yuning's palm. My mother-in-law was the first to object. She took the hairpin and handed it back to me, saying, "Yang, this was given to you by your mother. You should keep it safe." I shook my head and then pinned the jade hairpin into Zhu Yuning's hair. This hairpin is the family heirloom of my mother-in-law. Everyone in the village knows it's meant for the daughter-in-law of the Xiao family. If I keep it and someone really investigates, it will be even harder to explain. It's better to let Sister Zhu keep it for now. Zhu Yuning stopped her mother-in-law and said gently, "Mother, Sister Yang is right. When we reunite in the future, I'll return it to her," although reluctant. Her mother-in-law saw the reason in our words and could only sigh, whispering to me, "Yang, don't worry, what I give you will always be yours. In my heart, you are the only daughter-in-law of the Xiao family. When you come to the capital, I will definitely get it back for you." I nodded and turned to point at the sachet hanging from Xiao Chen's waist. "Whose foster brother?" This sachet was embroidered by my grandmother before she passed away. It's the only keepsake she left behind. "Could you return it to me?" Xiao Chen instinctively furrowed his brow and said softly, "Yang, I'm not used to you suddenly changing how you address me. When no one is around, you should still call me husband." I shook my head and smiled, saying, "We should be more cautious. We can't let others find a handle to use against us." Xiao Chen couldn't persuade me and sighed, saying, "Fine, I'll wait until I marry you again to change it back. I'll keep this sachet after all. It is your token of affection, our love token." I really don't understand why he used to despise sachets the most. He said that men wearing sachets would make people laugh. Now I want to fulfill his long-held wish, but I don't know why he's unwilling again. "Brother, the New Year's Eve is coming soon, and I feel quite lonely by myself. Keeping the sachet is also a way to have something to remember. If you like it, how about I give it to you when I arrive in the capital?" Xiao Chen reluctantly untied the sachet and handed both it and a stack of banknotes to me. As he was about to leave, he turned back and, under the cover of his wide sleeves, tightly grasped my hand, saying, "Wait for me obediently at home. When spring comes, I will personally come to fetch you. At that time, I still have one last thing to confess to you." I didn't press for details, simply nodding and replying, "All right." After watching them leave, I turned and went back home. I took down the long-prepared bundle from the top of the cabinet, placed the banknotes given by Xiao Chen on the table, and without looking back, headed north where the person I was to marry awaited. I had to marry myself off before Xiao Chen came to fetch me. By then, I would no longer need to entangle with him, nor would I have to humble myself like this anymore. The winter roads were difficult to travel. With limited funds, I couldn't afford to hire a carriage, so I walked on and off. Taking breaks along the way, out of money, I stayed in the city to work, planning to continue my journey once I earned some. Spring was just around the corner, and I was getting closer and closer to the border. That day, while I was wiping tables in the restaurant, the owner rushed in excitedly and said, "Luo Yang, the border army has won. Once the surrendered soldiers are rounded up, they will return to the border soon. You'll be able to see your fiancé before long. The employer paid me for the past few days' work and even gave me an extra bonus, saying, your fiancé is a hero of our great yin. Consider this my wedding gift to you both. Hurry and hire a carriage to go see him at the border town. I thanked the employer, hired a carriage, and rushed to the border town. The border troops hadn't returned yet, so I gave the remaining little money I had to the city guard. Sir, my fiancé is named Wei Lin. When he arrives, please tell him that I have rented a house in the second building east of the city and am waiting for him there. Upon hearing this, the city guard took the silver he had just tucked into his sleeve and returned it to me, apologizing with a smile. So you are Wei Lin's fiancé, no need for the money, in the future. Just put in a good word for me. I was completely baffled. Wei Lin is just an insignificant soldier. What's the use of speaking well of him? I'm afraid the city guard has mistaken me for someone else. But it's not bad to save some money. During the days of waiting, I was actually quite anxious. Wei Lin and I are indeed from the same hometown, and he has genuinely admired me for many years. However, I have been married before, and I'm not sure whether his agreement to marry me is sincere or just a whim, but after thinking it over, I came to a realization: if he truly changes his mind, at worst, I'll just live on my own. I have hands and feet, so I won't starve to death. Once I thought it through, my heart felt at ease. I started sewing my wedding dress. If it comes in handy, great. If not, I'll just consider it a way to please myself. After all, when I married Xiao Chen, I didn't even get to wear a wedding dress. At that time, the Xiao family was extremely poor, with nothing but bare walls in the house, not to mention a wedding dress. Even the ceremonial wedding wine was borrowed from the neighbors. Later, when I earned money, the first thing I did was repay the neighbors with 2 large jars of wine. That day, the neighbor Auntia held my hand and choked up several times, saying, Yang, such a good girl like you, why must you stay with the Xiao family? How hard it is for you, look at you. So handsome and so hardworking. Even if you married a wealthy official, it wouldn't be reaching too high. Why stick with Xiao Chen, a bookworm who only knows how to study, and waste your days like this? Back then, I liked Xiao Chen and was full of hope for the future, so I felt that my second aunt's words were a bit abrupt. I retorted firmly, Aunt, this is your prejudice against my husband, but I believe in him. When he recovers, he will not let me down. Aunt couldn't argue with me and could only repeatedly say that I was foolish. Now I understand that Aunt was the one who saw things clearly. The day I secretly left the village, I almost bumped into Xiao Chen's sister-in-law. It was second aunt who spotted her and held her back, then asked second uncle to pass me a message to leave quickly. She urged me, saying, Yang, I've long felt that the Xiao family isn't worthy of you. Go, live a little more freely. Don't let yourself be trapped by their family anymore. Auntie will help you deal with your sister-in-law's side, making sure the Xiao family doesn't notice you're missing for a while. I don't know what method second aunt used to stall my sister-in-law, but it must have worked, because for the past month or so, no one has come looking for me. But people really shouldn't speak too soon. On the third day, a carriage suddenly stopped in front of my house. I thought it was Wei Lin returning. So I rushed out excitedly, only to come face to face with a familiar face. Xiao Chen's temples were slightly disheveled, his face weathered, and his voice hoarse as he said, Yang, you really made me search for so long. Chapter 6. Xiao Chen dismounted and strode over to me in a few steps, grabbing my wrist with a force that nearly crushed my bones. Jiang Luoyang, didn't you promise me? Why did you run away from home again and come all the way to this border town? I spent half a month preparing carefully, personally went to Qingshan village to pick you up, only to find the house empty. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I couldn't break free from him, so I stopped wasting my energy and said calmly and coldly, why bother with me, Lord Xiao? Our marriage certificate has been destroyed. I am no longer a member of the Xiao family. Where I go, whether I live or die, has long had nothing to do with Lord Xiao. Xiao Chen was stung by my indifferent attitude, and his anger grew even stronger. Luoyang, I know you're unhappy, but you shouldn't be so willful. You clearly promised me that we would go to the capital and live together. How can you suddenly go back on your word? I suddenly found it somewhat ridiculous and couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. Didn't you also promise me, Lord Xiao, at the time of our marriage, that you would never betray me and never take a second wife? Haven't you also gone back on your word? This back and forth, Let's just call it even, Lord Xiao. Let's consider the matter settled between us. Settled. Seeing my resolute expression, Xiao Chen's eyes suddenly reddened. He pulled me close, almost face to face, and said, after more than 10 years of marriage, how can we just call it quits so easily? Yang, I know you've been wronged. Will you accept my apology? When we return, I will make you my equal wife. I won't let you be inferior to Yingying in any way. Alright, I couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. Xiao Chen, however, thought I looked down on the title of a secondary wife. Frowning, he said, Yang, it's not that I don't want to give you the position of a secondary wife, but Yingying truly saved my life. Saved your life, I gently interrupted Xiao Chen and said mockingly, even now, you still want to deceive me with the excuse of a life-saving favor, Xiao Chen. Your apology really isn't sincere at all. Xiao Chen's entire body stiffened, his eyes instantly flustered. Yang, what do you mean by that? I watched his drastically changed expression, tearing apart his disguise word by word. Zhu Yuning told me long ago, there were never any mountain bandits, and there was no life-saving favor. It was you who fell in love with her at first sight, took her by force, and ruined her original marriage. Talking about repaying kindness is just an excuse you found for your own fickleness and ingratitude. Xiao Chen's face instantly turned pale. He opened his mouth, but not a single word came out due to his embarrassment. I didn't want to waste any more time and prepared to see him out. He came back to his senses and weakly defended himself. Yang, let me explain. Yingying is a very jealous person. She said that on purpose to drive a wedge between us. You know very well that no woman would be willing to share her husband with another. I impatiently interrupted him, my heart already numb beyond feeling any pain. You understand this reasoning too, which is why you haven't returned home for 10 years, leaving me to guard an empty room alone. You even had your mother feign illness for a decade to keep me trapped in the countryside, didn't you, Xiao Chen? Since you care so deeply about her, stop clinging to me relentlessly. Save yourself from hurting me and then hurting her as well. I forcefully pulled my hand back, took a step away to create distance between us, and declared resolutely, the Jiang Luoyang of the past is dead. She died the day she learned the truth. Now, I have absolutely no connection left with you, Xiao Chen, or your Xiao family. Out of regard for our past relationship, I won't say a single word against you. I only ask that you leave quickly. My fiancé will soon return triumphantly with the army, and I don't want him to misunderstand. Chapter 7. Xiao Chen's back stiffened, and he abruptly looked up at me, his eyes filled with incredulous shock and anger. Fiancé? What fiancé? What is his name? I calmly replied, just an unknown soldier. Even if I told you, Lord Xiao wouldn't recognize him. Please leave quickly. But Xiao Chen was filled with unwillingness and said angrily, Yang, have you lost your mind? You'd rather marry a lowly, nameless soldier than a minister like me, not to mention his uncertain future. With that meager military salary, you probably won't even have enough to eat. You're not young anymore. Do you really want to go back to those hard times? I looked at him coldly and said calmly, what does hardship mean? If I were afraid of hardship, I wouldn't have married you in the first place. Lord Xiao, please refrain from slandering my fiancé any further. Though he may not possess the wealth and status you do, he treats me with genuine sincerity, unlike you, who is so fickle and unfaithful. Xiao Chen was momentarily at a loss for words. After a long pause, he finally gathered his thoughts and said, Yang, you've truly misunderstood me. I'm not someone who abandons the old for the new. All these years, even though I married Yingying, you've always been in my heart. Perhaps feeling that words alone were not enough to convince her, Xiao Chen cut himself off and said, never mind. When you come back with me, I'll prove it to you slowly through my actions. I didn't understand Xiao Chen's meaning, but his next sentence cleared up my confusion. The border army commander, General Qin Su, has some past connections with me. I'll go find him now and ask him to persuade your fiancé. As long as he knows what's good for him, I can introduce him to another girl. And I can even cover the betrothal gifts. I'm usually good-tempered, but this time I was rarely angered and snapped. Xiao Chen, have you gone mad? He didn't say it explicitly, but I understood. He's trying to use his authority to put pressure on Wei Lin. Wei Lin is just a low-ranking soldier. How could he possibly stand up to a minister? I simply snatched Xiao Chen's sword, pressed it against my neck, and threatened, Xiao Chen, if you dare go after him, I'll kill myself right in front of you. My life may be worthless, but you, as the esteemed Minister of Revenue, wouldn't fare well either if word got out that you drove an innocent commoner to death, would you?" In Xiao Chen's mind, I had always been gentle and cherished my life, so he never expected that I would resort to threatening suicide. He was somewhat flustered and dared not make any rash moves, urging, "Yang, put down the sword first, let's talk this through properly," I said with determination. "There's nothing more to discuss. If you don't want me to die, then immediately write a written pledge. If anything happens to me or my fiancé in the future, it will be considered your responsibility." Xiao Chen, having spent so many years navigating the political arena, would never easily leave behind something that could be used against him, but he still remained calm and said, "Fine, I'll write it, but as you can see, I came in a hurry and didn't bring anything. You'll have to find me paper and a pen." I really didn't think that much, turning around to go inside and get him paper and pen. Who knew this scoundrel would ambush me from behind, snatching the sword from my hand, then ordered his attendant, "Keep an eye on her, I'm going to see General Qin now." The attendant covered my mouth, and I couldn't even curse if I wanted to. Just as I was at a loss, a rough and hearty voice sounded from outside the courtyard. "Why is Minister Xiao here? I just heard you were looking for me. Is there something important?" The voice was unfamiliar to me, but I heard Xiao Chen reply respectfully, "General Qin, what a coincidence. I don't have anything major. I just wanted to ask General Qin to help me find someone." This man was none other than the commander of the border army, Qin Su. Qin Su laughed heartily and said, "Looking for someone? That's a small matter, Minister Xiao. Could you wait until I finish handling the important matters at hand first?" Xiao Chen stepped back to the doorway and said, "No problem, General, please attend to your duties first." But Qin Su leaped off his horse and, pointing at my family's gate, said with a laugh, "I happen to have business here too." Seeing Xiao Chen's puzzled expression, Qin Su explained, "I've come to propose marriage." Chapter 8. Xiao Chen froze for a moment and instinctively blocked the gate. He said cautiously, "General Qin and his wife have always had a good relationship, and their children are all grown up. This doesn't seem appropriate." Upon hearing this, Qin Su burst into laughter. Only after he had laughed enough did he explain, "Minister Xiao, you've misunderstood. It's not me proposing marriage. I'm proposing on behalf of my injured and immobile adopted son." Not to mention Xiao Chen, I was also dumbfounded. I even suspected that Qin Su had come to the wrong place. Qin Su didn't know how to explain for a moment, so he walked past Xiao Chen and entered the courtyard. The attendant, afraid of causing trouble, instinctively let go of me. Qin Su, being a military man by background, was always straightforward and didn't notice anything unusual. He just stared at me and asked, "Are you Jiang Luoyang?" I nodded blankly. Only then did Qin Su clap his hands and say, "That's right then. My adopted son is Wei Lin, your fiancé." My mind is a tangled mess. Isn't Wei Lin just a common soldier? How could he have become Qin Su's adopted son? Scratching my head, I said, "Great General, are you mistaken? My fiancé is named Wei Lin, but he couldn't possibly be your adopted son." "Great General, could it be a case of the same name?" Qin Su also became a bit uncertain and said, "My adopted son's ancestral home is Qingshan village, and he has a mole at the corner of his left eye. Does that match your fiancé? Forget it, forget it. How about this? I'll have someone carry him over so you can see for yourself." I quickly stopped Qin Su. "General, there's no need. The characteristics you mentioned are exactly the same as my fiancé's. There's no need to confirm further. You said he was injured, didn't you? Don't trouble him, I'll go see him myself." I hurriedly headed out but was grabbed by Xiao Chen, who had been silent all along. He shielded me behind him and fabricated an excuse. "General Qin, there's something we need to verify. Yang is my adopted sister, and I've never heard her mention anything about Wei Lin to the family. I'm afraid they must have pledged themselves to each other privately, which doesn't count as a formal engagement." After saying this, Xiao Chen lowered his voice and threatened me, "Don't talk nonsense. Wei Lin is now the adopted son of the general. If the general finds out you've been married before, not only will you fail to marry him, but you'll also ruin Wei Lin's reputation." I was genuinely intimidated by his words. Yes, after all these years, Wei Lin has finally found a powerful backer. If he were to lose influence because of me, my fault would be truly great. I was just thinking of a countermeasure when Qin Su frowned and said, "But Minister Xiao, whether you agree or not is already useless. You must have heard as well, Wei Lin fought desperately this time, severely crippled the left Sage King's forces, and brought back the left Sage King's head, earning the top merit. He didn't ask for any of the Emperor's rewards. Instead, he used his military achievements to request an imperial marriage with Miss Jiang. If your family opposes, it would be an act of defying the imperial decree." I was stunned for a long time. I never imagined that Wei Lin would go to such lengths for me, and I never expected that he would use his illustrious military achievements to secure a marriage certificate for me. At that moment, all my anxieties and fears completely vanished. I couldn't hold back the tears welling up in my eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy and emotion. Xiao Chen, however, was as if struck by lightning, his face turning ashen as he muttered in disbelief, "How could this be? How could?" Qin Su looked puzzled, frowned, and asked, "Minister Xiao, isn't this a good thing? Why do you seem so unhappy?" Xiao Chen then snapped back to reality. For the sake of his future and career, he had to force a smile. I'm happy. Chapter 9. Qin Su had brought along the imperial edict for the marriage bestowal this time. No matter how unwilling Xiao Chen was, he could only swallow his anger and accept it, since the words had already been spoken. He had no choice but to bring me to the capital as his foster brother to prepare for the wedding. The entire Xiao residence was filled with joy, and Zhu Yunying was especially busy running around for me, eager to send me off as soon as possible. Only Xiao Chen and my mother-in-law wore stern faces every day, unable to smile at all. Once Wei Lin had recovered somewhat, he personally came to propose marriage once more. I laughed at him for not minding the trouble. And he said it was the only way to show sincerity. He even said in front of Xiao Chen and his mother, I had no choice but to ask my adoptive father to propose on my behalf. I was just afraid that if I remained unconscious for too long, someone else would take you away. Upon hearing this, Xiao Chen's face darkened even more. After the guard left, my mother-in-law unusually scolded Xiao Chen. At that time, I went to serve tea to my mother-in-law as per etiquette. But I heard the sound of a cup shattering from inside the room. Then came my mother-in-law's sobbing. I've told you long ago, Yang is a good girl. If you don't want her, there are plenty of others who will. You just wouldn't listen. And now look what happened. My good daughter-in-law is about to become someone else's soon. Xiao Chen's voice was hoarse, but he still stubbornly retorted, Mother, what are you talking about? Isn't Ying also your daughter-in-law? His mother's voice grew even more sorrowful. What kind of daughter-in-law is she? I'm sick. Has she ever taken a look or asked a single question? And you work late into the night every night. Has she ever kept you company even once? Has she ever cooked you a midnight snack? Chenna, think for yourself. Back in the countryside, when you studied all night, who was it that stayed by your side without even undressing? Who was it that feared you would go hungry even for a moment? Don't even mention Yang. Even I, your mother, think you are being ungrateful. Perhaps the mother-in-law's words struck a nerve with Xiao Chen. As a dull thud of his fist hitting the pillar suddenly echoed through the room, he choked back tears and said, Do you think I don't know what you're saying, Mother? But what can I do now? Yang and Wei Lin were married by the Emperor's decree. Even if I wanted to fight for her, I can't. Mother, let's make do, no matter what. Ying has left a descendant for the Xiao family. Let's both endure a little. I didn't want to cause any trouble and was about to quietly slip away, but then I heard footsteps behind me. Before I could react, Zhu Yunying had already passed me and stormed into the room angrily. She grumbled angrily, Xiao Chen, what do you mean by making do? Now that you and your mother know how good Jiang Luoyang is, you see me as something to make do with, don't you? I'm telling you, it's too late. Once Jiang Luoyang is married off, I'll still be the one in charge of this household. Seeing Xiao Chen about to retort, Zhu Yunying directly silenced him. Don't tell me you're the head of the household. I have evidence of you abandoning your devoted wife. If you want to live peacefully for the rest of your life, you'd better obediently serve me like a beast of burden. After saying that, she turned to her mother-in-law, who seemed about to speak but hesitated, and said, And you old hag. It was your idea to volunteer to help detain Jiang Luoyang. Now that she's gone missing, what's the use of regretting it? This is your retribution. If you don't want anything to happen to your son, shut up and stop using filial piety to lecture me. I secretly watched the aggrieved expressions of the Xiao mother and son, feeling not an ounce of sympathy. This must be what they mean when they say, "The wicked will be tormented by someone worse." I suppose the rest of their lives won't be easy. One could say it's a case of just retribution. I turned and left without disturbing the 3 people inside the house. 3 days later, I finally left the Xiao residence and married into the mansion the emperor had bestowed upon Wei Lin with great fanfare. Wei Lin had used all his reward money to prepare the betrothal gifts, so his finances were rather tight, so the wedding ceremony wasn't lavish, but it had everything that was necessary. Wei Lin felt very guilty about this. But I was already quite satisfied. At least this time it wasn't like when I married Xiao Chen, when I didn't even have a wedding dress. In the 2nd year of our marriage, I followed Wei Lin to guard the border and gradually cut off contact with the Xiao family. I only occasionally heard bits and pieces from street gossip, saying that the Xiao residence was not peaceful, and that the Xiao mother and son were completely controlled by Zhu Yunying. If she said to go east, no one in the entire household dared to go west, and Xiao Chen also grew increasingly haggard, no longer handling matters as meticulously as before. After making several mistakes, he was repeatedly impeached in court. Although he wasn't severely damaged, he could no longer advance further, and his official career had essentially reached its end. My mother-in-law went from feigning illness to truly falling ill, spending the rest of her life bedridden in a rather pitiful state. Hearing this news, my heart no longer stirred with emotion. I continued to lower my head quietly, making new shoes for Wei Lin. He trained his troops rigorously, wearing out 7 or 8 pairs of shoes each month, which was truly heartbreaking to see. Just as I was sewing intently, a pair of hands rested on my shoulders. Wei Lin sighed helplessly and scolded. "Yang, the doctor said you're carrying twins, which is the most exhausting. Don't worry about me anymore." I smiled and held his hand. "I'm your wife. If I don't worry about you, who will?" The end.